Welcome to the Awesomers.com podcast. If you love to learn, and if you're motivated to expand your mind, and heck, if you desire to break through those traditional paradigms and find your own version of success, you are in the right place. Awesomers around the world are on a journey to improve their lives and the lives of those around them. We believe in paying it forward, and we fundamentally try to live up to the great Zig Ziglar quote, where he said, "You can have everything in your life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." It doesn't matter where you came from, it only matters where you're going. My name is Steve Simonson, and I hope you will join me on this awesomer journey.
If you're launching a new product manufactured in China, you will need professional, high-resolution, Amazon-ready photographs. Because Simo Global has a team of professionals in China, you will oftentimes receive your listings photographs before your product even leaves the country. This streamlined process will save you the time, money, and energy needed to concentrate on marketing and other creative content strategies before your item is in stock and ready for sale. Visit simoglobal.com to learn more, because a picture should be worth 1,000 keywords.
You're listening to the Awesomers.com podcast, episode number 33. That is episode number 33, which you can find, as always, the show notes at awesomers.com/33. Now, today my special guest is Brad Axelrad. And for over a decade, Brad's been an event producer, consultant, strategist, and podcast host, having produced over 150 live events with top business leaders and best-selling authors. Now, he's a proud founding member of the Association of Transformational Leaders of Southern California since 2010, and is a co-founder of the Association of Transformational Leaders in Costa Rica, founded in 2017. On his Face Your Dragon podcast, he interviews celebrity thought leaders and icons, including Don Miguel Ruiz, Arielle Ford, JP Sears, and many more. Brad's been featured on numerous media outlets, including NBC Nightly News, PBS Television, the OC Register, LA Times, USC News, and CBC News Canada. You're going to be glad you joined us today, because Brad's going to help you face your own dragon and give you some of the techniques that he helps people overcome fear and stress and put yourself on a track towards mental wellness. Welcome back, Awesomers. Steve Simonson joining you today again on the Awesomers.com podcast. And today we're lucky we have Brad Axelrad joining us. How are you, Brad?
I'm great. It's good to be here.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure to have you. And, you know, one of the things that, the intro didn't really talk about, but is this premise that, you know, being a consultant and a thought leader as you are, that you probably have, you know, kind of day-to-day responsibilities that you get into. And that's one of the things I like to start with is, what do you do kind of on a day-to-day basis that would help our awesomers out there understand kind of how you get by with each of your days?
You bet. And the reason I'm laughing is because every day is so different as an entrepreneur, as you know, and everybody else knows. We kind of have to wear many hats and adjust accordingly to what fires need to be put out, as well as what strategies and tactics we're implementing. My day looks very similar in the sense that most of what I'm doing is content creation, understanding a neuroscience and sort of the motives or challenges or blocks that we have as entrepreneurs and as humans in general, and how to move through those. So I'm both researching and writing, creating offers and content, videos on Facebook, trying to keep things really raw and kind of real and casual so that it feels relatable. I think is really the key, is creating relatable content, being as vulnerable as possible, and trying my best to bring all of me to the table, whatever that looks like, as raw and as screwed up as some of those parts are. And just do my best to bring all of it.
I love it. Well, that's certainly raw is probably a good description of this podcast. So the regular listeners will appreciate that sentiment. And so as we dive into this idea, maybe you could just summarize your business of Face Your Dragon, which I believe people can find at faceyourdragon.com. Tell us a little bit about that and how you got that started.
So background first, I, like so many in the transformational leadership space, or in the thought, new thought or ancient wisdom thought, whatever you want to call it, an interesting childhood, in the sense that I was finally driven to the point where it's like, I need to change some aspects of myself, and I'm committed to that, and really want to make sure that I both become the best person I can be, as well as create the biggest impact and legacy I possibly can on the planet. So that started with Tony Robbins in 2000. But fast forward to my favorite place on the planet called the Hoffman Institute. That's up near Napa. And I became the Orange County graduate facilitator leader for 2 years there. And it's just this deep, profound work, understanding all the aspects of who we are as both physical body and beyond. That said, I really felt a little trapped in the sense that I was teaching those principles and was sort of in that framework and wanted to create something outside of that. So what I did is I started a book study group. Book study group within 8 weeks got us on NBC Nightly News. Now I'm a national media sort of, not sensation, but certainly known in that regard as someone who's been on national media. And that propelled me into producing hundreds of live events, attracting USC News 21, LA Times, Orange County Register, PBS Television, like lots of media thrusted me into becoming this sort of thought leader. But here was the thing. The whole time my purpose was unfolding and expanding and being shown to me, I was grieving my father's passing right at that same time, literally like six months before he had passed. So I was both watching my purpose unfold as well as processing the darkest night of my soul and really having a lot of sort of doubts and regrets for not spending time with him. Because prior to that, I was this successful real estate broker making tons of money, living in Orange County, California, thinking I had made it, buying tons of property and vehicles and motorcycles and traveling. And the point is that when we think we've got it all together, God, whatever you want to call it, has this way of sort of checking us and humbling us. And I had a really pretty big humbling experience yesterday that I won't get into, but beautiful humility creates so much awesome opportunity. And,
no doubt about that. So I'm that brings up a series of questions that I have for you.
Yeah.
First of all, it sounds like the path you were on as a real estate broker or whatever had you kind of in that traditional. Now, what time frame was this roughly?
Man. That was before the crash, right? So it was for almost 7 years up until about 2006. And my dad died in 2005. And then that next year I was just grieving so bad I couldn't really work. And then by that point, the economy and the whole mortgage and real estate market just vaporized, right?
Yeah, the salad days definitely, particularly probably in Orange County, were 2000 to 2000, maybe 5, 6 even range,
exactly.
And 7 and 8. Let's just say the paradigm shifted.
Vaporized is a better term, I feel.
Vaporized. Yeah, equity vaporized. Yeah. So as that unfolded, both the personal tragedy, losing your father, as well as whatever you were doing professionally, how did that kind of morph into the idea of you mentioned the Hoffman Institute? How did that morph into this idea of consulting or helping people as a way to kind of make your way in the world?
Yeah, so just leading up to the Face Your Dragon brand, there was just a couple other things. So the event started going off. I eventually became a founding member of the Association of Transformational Leaders, Southern California. I've been a member of that for almost 9 years. And that's got some of the biggest leaders on the planet that either speak for us or are members. And subsequently founded the association in Costa Rica as well. But all of that said, I wanted to be around thought leaders. I wanted to, be one. I really how do I step up and create a business being that? And I was kind of thrusted into becoming an event producer. It wasn't by design. These meetings just kept growing and growing and growing. It wasn't like I want to produce events and be a speaker. I'm frankly terrified of public speaking, even though I've done it 300 times. I'm still somewhat terrified of it. I've just gotten better at it. So that's partially where the brand came from. As I was looking in all of my past experience of being a motocross racer, almost professionally, and being an extreme sports guy, pushing the envelope in life, and then growing up around hundreds of dragons in my life with my mom. She just was a dragon lover. I crafted the message of Face Your Dragon, and all of that sort of past life experience and recognizing neuroscience, quantum physics, the hero's journey, all the pieces that I wanted to bring into the message became Face Your Dragon.
Amazing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I I find both intriguing and also not that uncommon is this idea that an extreme sports guy like yourself will be like, oh, speak in front of people, forget about it. But jump over buildings or, whatever you're doing with the motorcycling. I'm sure that the most of the people that, those of us listening would go, wow, what they do on motorcycles, I couldn't possibly imagine. But the public speaking was something you had to face your own dragon, it sounds like.
That's exactly right. And again, the saying I say a lot on the Face Your Dragon podcast is what you're resisting and what you're most resisting and most afraid of are the very things that'll set you free. It's your moneymaker, it's your purpose, it's your gift to humanity. So that's really what your dragon is. It's this fire-breathing, gnarly animal that wants to kill you and, with fire and claws and eat you. But when you befriend that and become friends with the shadow aspect of yourself, there's great power in it. If you remember in Avatar and How to Train Your Dragon, if you've seen either of those, they became friends with their dragon. They became friends with this dark power in them, and they were able to use it. The challenge is some people only play with the dark energy and wield it and become sort of, dark magicians of dark energy. So that is real. I've seen it. But we don't need to get too metaphysical. Fear means lean in. It means yes. It doesn't mean shy away. In Gestalt therapy, the founder of Gestalt came up with the saying that fear is excitement without the breath. So that's really it. And if you're feeling fear, you're excited. We just need to sort of retool it and use that as energy into our businesses. And that's what I help people do, is sort of flip their fear into strength or transform it into strength.
It's that just simple paradigm of changing, something that we're delaying. I've talked about in the past, the idea that, normies will often procrastinate. They're like, I'll get to that later. But Ospreyers have to embrace the fear. They have to, whatever what they don't want to do the most, if they put that first in their day, the rest of the day has the potential to be great, versus that procrastination feeling when it's just like, I'll get to it tomorrow. And then at the end of the day, you're like, the next day's okay. And
100%.
It just weighs on you, doesn't it?
The human experience is interesting. And I wanted to, like I'd mentioned before, a lot about neuroscience and human behavior, a lot of what I wanted to study in the brand and integrate it into the messaging. And some of what I speak about is really that, procrastination is often because it doesn't feel like it's our highest and most fun thing to do. Like, I get that. But what most of us do when we're not living in our purpose and when we're in alignment with what's most meaningful and fulfilling to us, we will do exactly what you said. We'll procrastinate, we'll distract ourselves, we have addictions. Or the other side of it is, if we stay in what Gay Hendricks calls our zone of genius, our zone of excellence, or zone of competence, we'll offset that dissatisfaction of not having meaningful, fulfilling work by chasing the dragon, which came from the opium dens. Once you chasing that high forever, it's impossible to get back to that next high. But in our world now, chasing a dragon looks like seeking bliss in states of ecstasy over and over and over again. How do we find bliss outside of our misery? And that mostly looks like alcohol. It looks like a lot of whatever, sex, social media, too much television, too much travel. Without ever taking the time to slow down and look inside, we stay outside, we're external. And back to your point about the motocross, it's easier to manage our external world than it is our internal world. It's much easier to look outside than it is inside. And it takes true courage to actually look inside and master our inner dragon. I was mastering them outside for many years with drugs or motorcycles or snow skiing or women or whatever it was. Like, I had gotten to a place of whatever mastery is. In that false world, but true mastery is being able to understand your highest work on the world and getting aligned with it and having the courage to face all your dragons and keep stepping in. It's scary.
It can be scary, but boy, oh boy, to me, that's the only path to true fulfillment and happiness. I think you're dead on. Ospreyers, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. And when we come back, we're going to kind of dive into the common problem that entrepreneurs face. And if you haven't already, get on over to faceyourdragon.com. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, and let's make sure that we have a good takeaway from this session. We'll be right back after this.
Catalyst 88 was developed to help entrepreneurs achieve their short and long-term goals in e-commerce markets by utilizing the power of shared entrepreneurial wisdom. Entrepreneurship is nothing if not lessons to be learned. Learn from others, learn from us. I guarantee that we will learn from you. Visit catalyst88.com because your success is our success. Hey, giddy up.
Okay, guys, we're back again, and today we're talking about kind of how to get inside your head, and I really actually love the idea of face your dragon, right? I think that's just such a very good characterization of that mythical but scary creature, and obviously we have to face those scary things if we're going to make progress personally or professionally. So maybe you could give us an example of a typical entrepreneur or awesomer that might be out there that really needs the help. What's the process? How do they know they need the help, or how do they come to you? I'm curious, because I think there's probably a lot of opposition to asking for help from time to time.
You bet. And I just want to state that and sort of land the plane of the face your dragon. I've heard that from Joseph Campbell. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So if you are seeking something in your business, whatever that is, more clients, more speaking opportunities, a better offer that converts higher, understanding why you have fears that are stopping you from taking action. Most of my clients come to me when they've experienced a total meltdown around, I don't know what software to use. I'm not a techie. I don't know what offers to create. I'm horrible at writing copy. I just freeze and I stop. I start, I stop. I start, I stop. I've been doing this for months. I've been doing this for years. And I haven't broken through to either a profitable business or a business that's at the profit level that I really want to create. And that's simply because of small tweaks and understanding sort of the inner narrative or inner story that's keeping you at that level. And that's what we're going to look at. We would look at, why are you staying there? How did you get there? What are you modeling? And what can we do to really kind of shift from that state of your zone of competence? And why are you stuck there? Really, it's typically it's because of parental conditioning. It's I don't want to outperform or outshine somebody in my family. My wife wants me to not work so much. I mean, whatever it is, we all have these things that keep us stuck, and we've got to look at them and have the courage to own them and integrate them. We don't want to destroy them. We don't want to slay the dragon. Although sometimes it's good to do that, but that's a different metaphor. This metaphor is transforming all of that into your greatest gift, finding the gold in all the breakdowns and the blocks and the upper limits or the glass ceiling that you've created.
Yeah, that process of figuring out whatever the self-imposed limitations are, and then kind of getting in there is highly introspective, right? So it's already most people are uncomfortable, right? It's like, hey, as you said earlier, the external piece is much easier. If I can go get a new Facebook agency, or I can go, get a new copywriter, I can solve these problems without really addressing maybe some of the core issues.
Exactly right.
When you look at this type of, common scenario, and you said, or at least suggested that, often the stimuli to call you is been led by some sort of meltdown people have. Can you give a frame of reference to typical scenarios that you've seen in the past? Because I'm sure that all of us have faced similar things.
You bet. So just the 5 dragons really simply are that keep us stuck. Typically, you'll be found out as an imposter or fraud, right? Like what is it in me that thinks I can go out and share my message, and who am I to think that? I'm going to be found out that I don't have all the answers. I've never created, and frankly, a lot of coaches in the marketplace, read their freaking bios, look at their success stories, because many of them actually are imposters and frauds. And you need to know that, because so many will go on a webinar or listen to a podcast like this, take all the notes down and go pretend it's their own content and speak it out in the world. And unfortunately, that's creating a lot of junk in the marketplace. I've been in this for 15 years, a lot of experience, both in media and in event production and marketing. So that's the first one. Check in. Are you an imposter or fraud, or do you have that tape running that you are an imposter or fraud? Second one, that when you put yourself out there, people won't want what you're offering. So what that is essentially, if I do this, I'm never going to get the clients anyway. So why build everything I wanted to build? Why create my podcast? Why build a website? I've made these offers on Facebook, or I've purchased Facebook ads. Nothing's happened. So that second dragon is if I won't get clients or people won't want what I'm offering. Do you want me to keep going through the other three?
Yeah, I love it. So far we have this concept of, the imposter syndrome, we'll call it. And second, we have fear of rejection, more or less.
Actually, no, this one's more, I won't get clients. I simply just won't get, it is a little bit of fear of rejection. There is some of that.
Whatever I'm offering is not attractive to the market.
Exactly. It's just people won't buy it.
Okay, fair enough. I like these. Keep going.
Cool. So the third one is that you'll never have the courage to charge what you know you're worth. So, oh my gosh, it's not working. Let me lower my prices. And then you set yourself up in a really funky scenario where you find yourself potentially really busy, underpaid, stressed out, and then you want to quit again. And then the cycle starts over. There's something called a vicious cycle that I do a lot of work with my clients to help them understand and map the root cause of what's creating this breakdown and how it turns around and then starts all over again. So vicious cycles are really key to get to the root cause.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And then the fourth is that your tribe won't get you or understand the difference you can make for them. So that was a big one for me was, man, I don't have a message. Like I didn't create one for a long time. I was just bradaxelrad.com. I'm a consultant. And, I finally about 4-ish years ago took the time to come up with a really cool, what I think is a really cool, pat myself on the back. So taking the time to craft your message, but ultimately it not landing. People just don't resonate with it. You're afraid to share it because you're not getting positive feedback. Even once I finally put my stake in the ground and said, I'm going to be Face Your Dragon. It's like, man, do I want to be this sorcerer kind of energy? Is that really, wizards and dragons? Is that who I want to be? But really been owning it. So there's some hesitation even in myself. And I've had all these dragons, don't get me wrong. I personally think everybody does. One of them sticks out a little more than the other, typically.
So that's number 4. And, I definitely, I think it's a great brand, by the way. You take a pat on the back for me, because it frames up the question so easily. And, in the world of consultation, there's just so many, as you said, there's so much noise. It's hard to break through the noise. So I think it's a good start. But I'm curious on what that 5th dragon is, because the first 4 sound very familiar to me.
You're probably in them right now as you're doing this podcast.
I am. Yeah.
I guarantee that. So more power to you for stepping in and saying yes, even though it's freaking scary. Freaking right on. Okay, so the 5th is that if you do achieve the dream, you'll be criticized or your personal life will suffer. So that's a couple things there. So criticize looks like you're now out in the marketplace in a big way. You're hitting stride. Like, just, things are working for you and people are starting to, haters, I hate that term, but people that we call haters are posting negative stuff about you. They're making things up. Skeletons are coming out. People are trying to, shame you and make you feel bad in some way or criticize you or, whatever it is. So that's the first half of it. The second half is that your personal life will suffer. So in that being criticized, you might take it personally. It might make you feel bad. It could spill over into other relationships in your life. But more importantly, people in your family may not like your newfound success. So why would I go out and create all this success if I'm just not going to be loved again? It's such a core thing for us, connection and love. It's one of the 6 basic human needs from Tony Robbins. We need love in our lives. And if we become successful, some people are going to get pissed off, frankly.
Yeah, boy, I tell you, it's so again, all of these dragons should be familiar to anybody who's had experience or achieved anything meaningful or perhaps noteworthy.
Yep.
At one time in one industry, we were proud, actually, the team and I were proud that we were basically the most hated company in that particular industry because we were disrupting the entire operation.
Yep.
Later, we were displaced by China, and we weren't sad about that. China became more hated than we were at that point. But the reality is, I'm hopeful that most people, to me, I score these dragons on my own scorecard, right? And so, the imposter syndrome, we all have that. We're going to get it. In fact, I think I opened the first podcast for Awesomers saying, hey, I don't know if anybody's going to listen, but either way, I'm committing to 6 months of daily episodes.
Good for you, man.
Even if it's just me talking to myself, who's going to care, right? And this is, for me, one of the fundamental lessons of failure is nobody else actually cares. They actually care more when you succeed, and that's your Dragon 5 right there.
Wow, really, really good point. Yeah, that's a very valid point, and I'm in the process of navigating some of that myself. You know, wondering, is it just my head that's got this thought that people are going to view me a certain way, or is it real? I mean, there's probably a mixture of both. I just had an interesting thing happen yesterday. Like I said, I won't share, but it was, kind of frustrating, and it's something that I've got to check in with and, see where it lands and see how much of that outward projection of reality is it really just projection, or is it outward, or is it actually out there? And I think it really is mostly our own inner game, and we're our own worst enemies.
Without a doubt. And again, in my experience, it's success that ends up bringing more and more of that kind of negativity from the world that I call normies. Now, just for your own edification, I don't judge normies. I'm not opposed to normies. They're just different than awesomers, right? Normies, well, if we come up with this world-class idea and we're super jazzed up about it, normie will go, that's really cool, but here's the 88 reasons why that's not going to work.
That's right.
And I really want the best for you, but I'm trying to protect you. So, by the way, here's number 89. I just came up with another reason why that idea is stupid. So, normies will take this approach that can be generally viewed as negative. And so over time, I've given myself permission to kind of step back and go, you know what, even though I have friends and family who I love and cherish that are normies, if they tell me something, I'm just not going to take that on. All right. That's not a rock I'm willing to carry up the hill. I've already got a pretty big load going.
Amen to that, brother. And it's tough. It's tough not to sometimes.
It really is. Yeah. Honestly, that's one of those, that's why it's a dragon, fundamentally, right? It's not easy. So I really appreciate the concept of, where people are coming from and framing up this problem. We're going to take another quick break and then talk about how people go about fixing the problem, right? How do we address a solution? And we'll be right back after this.
Hey, Amazon Marketplace professionals. Congratulations on your success to date. Your creativity, strategic vision, problem solving, and discipline have allowed you to build your own e-commerce business. Wouldn't it be great if you had more time to focus on the things that truly drive the sales and growth of your company? Instead of getting lost in a dozen different services and countless spreadsheets, what if there was one system that connected to your Amazon account and automatically gave you the information that you needed to make great decisions and really impact your business? Parsimony ERP can do that. Parsimony is the business operating system for your marketplace business. With Parsimony, you get true double-entry bookkeeping, easy financial statements, full customer service tools, and item-by-item profitability, along with project and task management, and more features are being added all the time. Learn more at parsimony.com. That's Parsimony, PARSIMONY.com. Parsimony.com. We've got that.
Okay, here we are again, and I have to say that we're getting right into it, right? This is one of those episodes where we have to think about stuff. We don't just talk about the best, copywriting or the best hack for Amazon. We actually have to do some things and be thoughtful in our own minds about what we're doing. And Brad Axelrad is here to help us today. His brand, which I really do appreciate, the faceyourdragon.com, he's able to help people in a variety of ways, but as a consultant, and he's got his own podcast. I encourage people to go check that out. As you look at the problem, Brad, that we've just framed up, what's the first step that they go about kind of taming the dragon, right? We're not here to slay the dragons. We just want to, I like the idea of train your dragon. That's a pretty good analogy from those movies, which are good movies. Yeah. So what do we do first?
Yeah. So first of all, what is the dragon, right? So first of all, we need to find it. That's the key. So the first step is finding it. Second step is facing it. Third step is riding it or leveraging it or integrating it and using it, right? So finding the fear. Most of us don't really want to admit what it is. And as men in particular, we, I think, have much more resistance to and less skill and less biology and physiology that allows us to really get in touch with what it is. We think it's something else, and we go to anger. Like that's our go-to. We don't typically have the sensory acuity or the emotional intelligence to really go inside and name what that resistance is or what the fear is. So anyway, finding it. and then naming it. We want to name it. Is it frustration? Is it sadness? It could be grief from something, from a past business failure. It could be grief from a death in my scenario, or childhood wounding. I mean, this might be very deep for some of you, but really this is the real work that's going to allow us to be free and create true freedom, not sort of self-medicated freedom. And I want you to be truly free. So true freedom to me looks like owning our experience and naming it and really getting in touch with it, finding what fear it is or what stuckness it is, and sort of communicating with it. It's important to really slow down sometimes. That's why meditation is really powerful. But breath is really powerful, getting in touch with, our nerves. Am I nervous? Am I scared? Am I excited? Am I worried? What is it? And naming it. So that's the first step.
So I find that very interesting because I think you brought this up, and it was well said that, men in particular, probably resist this idea of addressing fears, right? Because we're not supposed to have any fears.
Right.
We're supposed to be fearless, despite the fact that spiders can be
snakes, spiders.
Yeah, right. Why is it always snakes, as the great Indiana Jones says? So listen, everybody's got fear. That's just the reality of the world we live in. It's how we deal with that fear. And I find that awesomers and entrepreneurs in particular have a higher propensity to go towards depression than other people. And again, I'm a self-selecting audience, right? Because that's how I've lived for the last 30 years. But I do think if you look at, quotes from, Elon Musk and many others, that this idea of depression, which is the failure to address some kind of fear or underlying problem. Would you agree with that, Brent?
Yeah, really. I didn't know that. So happy to know that, and it's sad to know it, but also happy to know that that's a statistic. And certainly I've battled that in my life as well. And proper nutrition has helped significantly. So removing a lot of the toxins and healthy fats have helped a lot. Adrenal support is key, you guys. A lot of that is coming from adrenal fatigue and burnout. So I'd recommend something I take called adrenal DMG. And by no means am I a doctor. Don't take this as medical advice. Adrenal DMG by Dr. Nick Delgado. It changed my life, and at least 10 people I know, they're like, oh my God, what is that stuff? Like you don't know how worn out your adrenals are until you know how good they feel. It's kind of like depression. But depression is repressed. I just showed that my internet connection's unstable. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming through. We had a little bit of a breakup, but fundamentally you talked about, the DMG, was it?
Yeah, Adrenal DMG by Nick Delgado.
And then St. John's Wort.
And St. John's Wort. But more importantly, you're right. It's finally having the courage to address what we are repressing. That is the depression. You're absolutely right. And most of the time it's childhood stuff. And that's, like I said, the Hoffman Institute. HoffmanInstitute.org, my favorite work on the planet. It's a deep dive. I mean, there's major celebrities that go there, major, NFL players. Major leaders of high functioning CEOs go to this. It's just profound work. And
I think it's a really important thing to just step back, from time to time and do the checklist, right? We have we look at our business functions. We're like, hey, how's operations running? How's finance running? But on our org chart, our function chart, we don't have rarely do we have, how's the health? Certainly, I don't even know what an adrenal is, just to be clear. I'm going to go look that up. I assume Wikipedia's got some information, but I certainly haven't done any stock check on my adrenals to figure out if they're in good shape or not. So,
well, I'll share real simply kind of the symptoms. Like I before I had moved to Boulder, Colorado, where I crafted a lot of this message, I needed to move to a cabin in the mountains so I could write for like a year. And I finally got to where I could get this thing out of my head, because I had no message. I had no idea what it was. Like, it was so far from anything. I was like, I'll never find one. It'll never happen. And I did. I sat there with lots of shaman and lots of time and contemplation. And, basically I woke up before that trip, before I moved there, I woke up, I thought I was dying. I'm like, what? I can't, in the mornings, I'm like, I'm so exhausted. And what do most people do? They go straight to coffee. They don't even go to water first. They go straight to coffee, and then they're pounding coffee. What does coffee do? It donkey punches your adrenals awake. But what it's also doing by donkey punching your adrenals awake is it's slowly destroying them. So most people are in this state of perpetual adrenal fatigue, and they're bolstering them up with a patch and a crutch. So that would be the first thing I would look at, is your adrenals as an entrepreneur.
That's I think very good advice. It doesn't matter what the addictions are if it's kind of what you need to get through the day.
That's right.
It's, short of say water or basic food stuffs, there's probably something else. Anything else is probably some level of addiction.
Well, no doubt. And there's a spectrum, right? I mean, you could be a total health nut and that could become an addiction, right? Or an obsession. Anytime we get obsessed. And I used to have this thought that pure obsession is a good thing, especially as an entrepreneur. You have to be obsessed. And I've been checking in with that in myself. Where is that healthy? Where is it unhealthy? How can I balance it more? Like, I get the idea of being all in, like we have to go all in or we'll never succeed. And as an entrepreneur, I firmly believe that. But there's a balance of healthy obsession, and point being, we can over health ourselves. And, we got to just be mindful. That's all.
Yeah. I think, again, just the idea that, you're taking inventory on this topic, right? Yeah, our internal mind and our adrenals, or our physical health, whatever it is, just adding that to the checklist is probably a worthy beginning, right?
That's exactly right.
That it's important to just start somewhere.
You got to do something. I personally think that all sugar needs to be cut out of your diet. I eat a smoothie every day. Every morning I have this incredible smoothie with tons of greens and tons of fats, and I could share the recipe later, but like I am so charged up through the day because I kick my day off with massive power. I drink alkaline water all day that's got hydrogen tablets in there. Like I'm hydrated, I'm fired up. I'm here in a gorgeous house in Palm Springs. It's 120 degrees today. Ooh. I'm going to go outside and get in the sun and sweat some of my toxins out and soak up the sun. Like, it's important we do these things, purge, move things through.
I really do agree that the idea of, having time for ourselves. So I regularly talk about this idea that, knowing your personal why is a very important thing. And it's a journey. It takes a little time to get there. At least it did for me. Other people are like, I know my why. I want to be rich and have really cool cars. It's like, that's not really a why, just to be clear.
No.
And the why for me is almost always more centered in the idea of what ultimately you want to be chiseled on the gravestone, right? And you want to have lived a life of freedom. You want to have a life of good health and opportunity and abundance and blah, blah, blah. So whatever each awesomer individual why is, it doesn't really matter. All these are prerequisites to kind of get there. Good health and good mental health is a part of that.
Yeah. And I've been slacking a little in the mental health department because I've been working on a lot of projects, and I'm recognizing the need to do some more inner work myself. Like, there you go.
Well, what do they say? The cobbler's the last guy to get his shoes fixed.
That's freaking right, man. The barbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Time to ride one of your dragons.
Well, let's talk about that, and let's go ahead. Do we have time? So the second.
Yeah, we do. Please.
Yeah, the second one, first is find your dragon. The second is face it. So now back to the courage of what we've been talking about, of getting real. And oftentimes I have my clients take a 30-day detox, as long as they'll commit to. Typically it's about 30. And what that looks like is celibacy. It looks like sobriety. It looks like getting off all coffee, any substance that you use as a crutch, to stand in all of your emotion, so that you can find it. It's sometimes hard to find your stuff if you're self-medicating. Most people will meditate, they'll do yoga, they're managing their symptoms really well. But the only way to find it is to really oftentimes do this sober celibate thing, because we release energy in so many ways, or we self-medicate to calm energy down. Alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, sex, masturbation, we're always doing something. So facing it in that sober celibacy can be really powerful. That's going to help you just really feel everything, and you're going to feel your discomfort, and you'll soon realize that it's not so bad, and what you've been afraid of the entire time isn't really that bad. You just haven't gone long enough to really normalize it. So we self-medicate, we self-anesthetize, we distract, right?
Yeah, I think that's part of our basic wiring. This is the point of trying to figure out how you overcome some of that instinct, perhaps.
Yeah, well, there's human animal and human spirit, as Alison Armstrong speaks about. It's brilliant. So the lizard brain in us is very much focused on survival. And then there's this beautiful, all-knowing, all-loving aspect that we sometimes forget about. And unfortunately, when we're on, it's like you don't get the high highs or the low lows when you're self-medicating. but I'd prefer to have the high highs because that's just who I am. I'd rather feel fully alive, fully expressed, and deal with some of the dark times than never have the high highs. That's just me.
It is interesting. I do think that there is this general idea that there are a particular mindset that's like, you know what, I'm just going to be, even Steven, to be, to coin the phrase, and that, you're less likely to have those high highs, and maybe the lows won't be as low as they would otherwise be. But to feel right, it's the old story, right? If you've never loved and lost, you haven't, lived, right? And so you have to have that high and that low to get it.
It's a brilliant analogy, and I'd prefer to have loved than lost, 100%.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the full experience of living at the end of the day.
Yeah, because so many stay stuck in the middle, miserable. They hate their job. They don't like their spouse. They hate Mondays. I fucking love Mondays. Come Sunday night, I'm starting to get bored if I'm not totally distracted on the weekend to sort of take my own medicine. Sometimes we need to go play. I get it, but oftentimes I'm like, on Sunday night, I'm like, can Monday just start? I'm ready to get to work. Like, purposeful work at this stage is the most fun over anything. I've tried everything else: the motocross, the snow skiing, the travel, the women, the drugs, the golf, you name it. I've done it all. Like, that's not true happipiness. That's just experiences.
Yeah. I definitely, I do think that particularly as people, gain a little perspective, which is a nice way of saying get older, we realize that, the experience that we have of living, and we're going to have all these experiences, but the fulfillment that comes from a particular experience, there's high parity towards, work that is worth doing, and accomplishments that are noteworthy and memorable, and give you your own personal sense of satisfaction. Forget the outside world.
You're 100% right. A book that I study a lot is called Stealing Fire. It's brilliant, and it talks a lot about these states of ecstasy and how we're part of our natural way of being is to seek these higher altered states. We've been doing it as long as we've been upright, and even animals do it. Even dolphins do it. I mean, it's like we're all seeking that. Yeah, I just want you to recognize really what I think we're both saying in that is that the fulfilling work that feels good, that leaves a legacy, that gets you fired up to jump out of bed on Monday, that's the gold.
Yeah, and that ultimately is also sustainable, right? And that's the point of, you're no longer chasing the dragon, so to speak, right? You're tamed, you're riding it, you're whatever. But the reality is it's sustainable to have that level. And by the way, for those vocabulary nerds out there, I never knew the plural for ecstasy. So I'm going to say it's ecstasy. Am I getting it right?
I don't know if that's plural so much as a state. I don't know. It's ecstasy. It's interesting. The book's fascinating though. It talks about all Silicon Valley folks who are micro dosing and like, it's just interesting. Like, that's the direction I've gone in years, is through legal medicinal shaman led things, and some illegal substances here in the States, but legal in other countries. Sure. And yeah, really, really powerful work in that too. I just would recommend you explore all things. It's not about, like you said in the beginning, getting better copy or Amazon, whatever widget, like that's all good and fine. But there's this whole other spectrum that we as humans can explore if we have the courage to. And that's part of the Face Your Dragon brand, is stepping out of your comfort zone or your myopic viewpoint of what business is. You might be missing a large part of opportunity if you're willing to go outside of the myopic sort of tunnel vision that you may be stuck in, and you don't even know you're in it either. That's the other thing, right? We can't see our own eyeball.
Yeah. This is, but the symptoms, when you know you're in it, will become more clear as you think about this and you listen to this conversation, right? When you're waking up and you dread the day, or you don't even want to wake up, when you are, you have somebody who's on your hate list as the first thing of the agenda, that's a problem that you need to solve. And it's probably your problem in my.
Is that right?
Yeah, for sure.
So can we talk about the third one? We have time to talk about riding it? Okay, cool.
We're down to it. Yeah, please.
So find face and then ride your dragon. So like I'd mentioned in Avatar and How to Train Your Dragon, they were scared of these dragons and How to Train Your Dragon, and they're firing, and they're attacking the village, and it was this gnarly thing. And then And then they like befriended them, and they're like, wow, these are our greatest gift, our greatest freedom. We can soar around on these things. Like, it's just such a brilliant depiction of the mythological story of the dragon. And I love Joseph Campbell's take on that work too. It's really brilliant. But there's, something beneficial to harnessing our fear and transforming it. We've simply, back to the neuroscience conversations, our brains are this incredible pharmacy, this pharmacopoeia, this possibility of tapping into all that's happening, the dopamine, the serotonin, all of it. And we can use it to our advantage. We just need to learn to dance with it a little more and start, transforming it and converting it into our power. So transforming fear into strength is the language I'm playing with on the new Face Your Dragon website that'll be live in a couple days. It's really about recognizing that your greatest fear is your greatest strength. Your greatest resistance is the very thing that's going to create the biggest impact in the world for you. For example, speaking for me, it's gotten me on all this media. I'm a founding member of some of the biggest, coolest organizations on the planet, number one. Number two, when I moved to Costa Rica, which I've now moved back, I lived down there for just over 2 years, realized it's not for me for many reasons. But I leapt, I took the leap. That's another thing. We want to face your dragon, take the leap, and break free. Those are the hashtags I use a lot. The point is this. There's great power in, I lost my train of thought, but there is great power in changing our environment.
Yeah, no, you're definitely on the track of saying, hey, once you've kind of named it and now you're writing it, you're trying to figure out how to, make it a part of your life with, and you use the word kind of normalize at times. And you also said kind of go with the flow, or implied that was a part of the strategy. Is that how people kind of resolve and live with their dragon at that point?
Well, the interesting thing is you can crawl in bed with this thing. And if you have the courage to really cuddle up to this sucker, I know that it's going to be scary at first, but that's where it's at, man. Just know that that's the end result. How do I get so intimate with this thing? By finding it and facing it. And that's really where it's at. You're not facing it right now. You're not being real with yourself in some aspect. We all are not. And that's what I want to challenge you. If there's any takeaway at all from this conversation, is have the freaking courage to face what it is you're afraid to face. For example, one of my clients had been doing something in her childhood, and she carried the shame around it for 26 years. She called the person that she needed to clear this with. And she is like the most free she's ever been. She's been carrying that forever. She found that dragon, she faced it, and now she went and called herself out on it, and she's riding it. And that's like, she's like, oh my God, this was my money block forever. This was why I've been so stuck and had challenges around money. It's really powerful.
That is amazing. And, I've definitely seen examples of these types of things in my personal and professional life, to be honest, where you see people who have been inhibited by an obstacle.
Totally.
And until they kind of deal with that obstacle in whatever way, usually for me, it always comes back to, I recognize it, here's whatever accountability that I have. Obviously, stuff as kids, we don't really have accountability, but I want to take on whatever the part of the problem is, and then release the other person or party from. I'm just carrying it, right? Half the time, I think when people are carrying some of these things, we're carrying it, and the other person doesn't care, or the other party has forgotten about it. They couldn't care less, right?
100%, man.
You find that to be okay? Yeah,
Yeah, it's so true. That was back to our conversation maybe 10 minutes ago about, is it really us, or is it actually is it our own story? And most of the time, it is. Sometimes there's the external world. I just want to frame the whole victim thing. A lot of people in self-development say, oh, there are no victims, you're responsible for everything. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true. It's not really, though. There are people who are victimized. And it feels disrespectful to say that people don't have bad things happen to them. It fucking happens all the time.
Yeah. And it does, regrettably.
Yeah. And I think it's important to see where we're part of the cycle. But it's also important to recognize, everyone needs to own up to their part. And that's part of the challenge I had yesterday, as I felt that I was owning mine as best as I could. And everyone else is saying, well, thanks for owning yours. You're broken and fucked up. We're perfect over here, and I'm saying, no, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So all I'm suggesting is we need to look at both sides vulnerably, courageously, openly, have the courage to admit where you're part of the cycle and recognize that, we're not fully responsible for everything. Other people are doing shit sometimes, and hopefully they've got the self-awareness to own up to it, because that creates transformation.
Yeah, I totally agree with this premise. And without doubt, there are true and legitimate, nightmare victim scenarios, right? That nobody should ever be faced with. In my mind, and this is not speaking, on behalf of you, the expert, but in my mind, part of getting past that is getting past that, right? You have to be able to recognize the situation. You forgive yourself, not for being responsible for it, for just carrying the baggage for so long.
Right. Well said.
Without that release, without that recognition that, the other person or party or whatever happened, they don't care as much as I do about this. And for me, anyway, I always think the longer I carry this, they're winning. They get the win in the column because I'm carrying the baggage from whatever the situation was.
Well, yeah. What's that saying? Not forgiving is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die or something like that. It's such a brilliant thing. And we do it so much. Oh gosh, we take stuff to our grave. And if we just had a 5-minute conversation, an open conversation with ourselves or with someone else, but most people don't like conflict, I've found. And I'm not conflict averse. I think transformation happens through conflict, healthy conflict. I think it's important.
It is. And you framed it up well moments ago, which is, everybody should go in with that kind of openness to say, hey, I'm willing to take my lumps and be accountable where I need to. And everybody at the table should have that. And therefore conflict doesn't have to be contentious. It just has to be, here's the way I see it. Here's the way you see it. You either bargain to the middle or you agree to disagree, whatever it is. But conflicts can be diffused by simply addressing it. And so often I find people make assumptions. They decide who's guilty and who's innocent based not on fact, but just emotion. Is that your experience?
100%, man. It's a tricky thing. I think, we're seeing a lot of things come to light right now. Thank God. Through all the turmoil that's very unsettling in the world. It's a great time, but it's an intense time for some. If you're feeling it, you're not alone. There's a lot of what are called HSPs, highly sensitive person or people, who are experiencing some intensity. And I don't think it's just because they watched the news and saw something bad, although that's definitely triggering some of their fight or flight mechanism. But it's in the field. There's a field of energy, and in the quantum world, there's a field, and we're all interconnected to this thing, and it's there. It's real.
Yeah, no doubt it's real. Brad, this has been very informative. When awesomers are out there listening and they hear us talking about some of these things, there's a chance that some of these points are going to resonate, and some of it maybe even hits a little too close to home, where we're going to get a little hate mail, which I would definitely welcome. So please email me immediately. My point will be, if it hits that close to home, you definitely should be paying closer attention to what we're talking about than anyone else.
100%. If there's a trigger,
maybe they have, some level of resonance with this topic, and they have this sense that maybe they've got a dragon they need to figure out how to get on board with. What should they do? How do they get in touch with you? Do they go to your website? Do you have a form? How does it work?
Yeah, I think the best place to go is to take the 1-minute quiz to discover the number one hidden fear stopping you from earning what you're worth. It's a great 1-minute quiz. It gives you great results, and it's at couragequiz.com. So you just go straight to couragequiz.com.
Okay, couragequiz.com. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes too, everybody.
Cool. And of course, faceyourdragon.com. That's where all the podcasts live. I mean, I've had some of the biggest thought leaders on the planet on there, and the likes of Don Miguel Ruiz of the Four Agreements, which is one of the best-selling books of all time in that space. Gay Hendricks, like I mentioned, JP Sears, a funny man, like just so many amazing humans on there.
I love it. Well, and this is for me, it's always nice to be able to kind of, tie this thing up in a bow and know that, you don't have to be alone. You don't have to sit out there and kind of worry or wonder, how to solve these things. There's experts in this field like Brad who can, kind of lend a hand and help you out. And I'm always a big proponent of bringing the pieces of the puzzle together, to kind of finish the job. And I know that I can't do it myself. So I'm always looking kind of for help and for a leg up, or, some people think of it as a hack, a shortcut or whatever. But ultimately you need to find somebody who you can trust, somebody who's got the experience. And I definitely would, encourage people to get on there at faceyourdragon.com and check out Brad a little bit more thoroughly. Any final words of wisdom, Brad, that you can share with everybody out there?
Yeah, let's see. Final words of wisdom. Has any of this been wisdom?
Well, I feel like a lot of it's been wisdom, particularly, although I would not like to endorse the a month or more of celibacy. But
sure.
No, yeah. I quite agree with your premise there, actually.
Yeah. So let me share. I'll give a quick little context. I did a 2-year sober celibacy. So if that gives you any framework, I think anyone can do 30 days. And I think the final words of wisdom is stop drinking coffee. Cut that shit out of your life in the morning. Go have a smoothie. Start your day off with something powerful that's full of nutrients that kicks your day off with power. And then if you feel a little tired in the afternoon, go ahead, have a cup of coffee. But I'll tell you, once you start getting the nutrients in your body, you're not going to want coffee. If you crave the habit of it, the ritual of it, the smell of it, drink decaf, but get off of this adrenal crushing, toxic, even though people say it's healthy, it is clobbering your adrenals. That's the first, I don't want to say final, but the first part of wisdom. Second, drink more freaking micronutrients and vegetable juice. If you get tired in the middle of the day, have coffee. But I'd prefer you go get a vegetable juice, get 16 ounces of low sugar green juice, lots of spinach, celery, cucumber, beet, maybe with some apple, like have that in the afternoon. You will be shot out of a freaking cannon. You'll be thinking, why was I self-medicating myself all day with coffee? If I change my life to these two things, you will run circles around your friends because you will have 5 times the amount of power. And I'll leave it at that. I think that's the biggest thing, getting your health on track.
Boy, I definitely say, that is really good advice. And people, if you don't understand that the inputs lead to the outputs, then you're not paying attention, honestly. And it goes for anything. It doesn't matter if it's your physical body or your business or anything else. The inputs lead to the outputs.
Yeah.
So why not measure and be very careful?
You bet. And the final thing, and this might be a little confronting, is stop being so fucking lazy.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is most people take the easy route and coffee, and just fast until 2 when they have a burger. I get it. I eat shit junk food sometimes too. I hope you don't mind me swearing.
No, not at all.
But the point is, there's another way, and you're just not being courageous, and you're stuck in your habits, and you're being lazy. Stop it. There's such a better way to create what you really want in life. And you got to face it sometimes. And hopefully this is confronting enough to get you to make some changes, or you're just going to think I'm an asshole and I'm calling you out, which I'm fine with too.
Well, either way, I'm happy to be a party to it. I will definitely say, that people who need to, kind of address change, and we all do on some level, the lack of action is always the first obstacle. So, my recommendation for any awesome out there listening is just figure out what the first action you need to take is. And Brad's given some very clear, easy ways to just take action on what you put in your body. And for clarity's sake, and Brad, and then we'll zip it up, but the smoothies in the morning do not have sugar in them, right? They're just vegetables.
Yeah. Do you want me to share real quickly what's in it?
Yeah, please. Yeah, let's do that, because I don't want to miss that.
Yeah, alkaline water, mixed berries, all organic, and mixed. Costco's got such a great deal on all this organic stuff now. So maybe half a cup of mixed berries.
Okay.
They've got this big bag of kale and spinach and chard all in a bag, all organic. I freeze that whole bag. So frozen berries, frozen kale, plant protein, all bought at Costco, hemp seeds, Costco, chia seeds, Costco, cinnamon, Costco, what else? Avocado, coconut oil. Okay. All these healthy fats and micronutrients create so much power for your brain. And if you're like me, and like a lot of entrepreneurs, you might use, sometimes, I don't normally, but use nootropics or other sort of mind-altering substances. Many people will take microdoses of LSD. Like, you don't need that stuff. Although it's great, you can do it through nutrients. And so the smoothie is such a great way to kick that thing off.
I definitely appreciate you sharing that. It's it sounds like I got a Costco run to make, but
yeah, baby.
I definitely want to just, support this concept of, what goes in is ultimately the, those inputs that will lead to whatever output that you want. And we're talking about, physical stamina, we're talking about mental acuity and all the things that go with just being a high performance thinker and just, I would say ultimately the goal is to, just be able to be happy and fulfilled and satisfied throughout the day instead of chasing the next little, it's been a few hours, I need that coffee or the soda or whatever it is. So
yeah, I mean, let's get real. Being an entrepreneur takes a lot of energy. So why not give yourself what you need? Fuel yourself up.
Simple. I love it. Awesomers, we will be right back after this, and we're going to really enjoy some of these great lessons we've learned today. So thank you, Brad, again, I appreciate having you on today, and we'll be right back.
Empower. The name says it all. Connecting e-commerce entrepreneurs with great people, ideas, systems, and the services needed to stay business dynamic and to grow. Empowery is a network, a cooperative venture of tools and resources to make you better at what you do, because we love what you do. We are you. Visit empowery.com to learn more.
And there you have it. It is a great episode and a great conversation with Brad, and we're sure glad he joined us. And he brings in some very important points about how to get your fear and your stress and even some of the chemical things we put into our body under control, and some obviously very innovative ideas as well. What if we put ourselves on a fast from that kind of stuff? All of it, all that extraneous stuff. Really interesting stuff. And I really appreciate the fact that he's taken the time out to share these ideas with us. And I love the idea of facing our own dragons. That's a really cool concept. So once again, this has been episode number 33 of the Awesomers.com podcast. As always, to find show notes and details, you can go to Awesomers.com/33. That's Awesomers.com/33. Well, we've done it again, everybody. We have another episode of the Awesomers podcast ready for the world. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed our program today. Now's a good time to take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. Heck, you could even leave a review if you wanted. Awesomers around you will appreciate your help. It's only with your participation and sharing that we'll be able to achieve our goals. Our success is literally in your hands. Thank you again for joining us. We are at your service. Find out more about me, Steve Simonson, our guest, team, and all the other Awesomers involved at Awesomers.com. Thank you again.